And now we've brought the content here, but we still don't have a way to display it. So I'm going to click on this little arrow to close that dialog. Now I want to deselect that data source. I can do that most easily just by clicking on the right arrow on my keyboard. The way I'm going to get that content to actually display on this page is to use one of the other controls in the data section of the toolbox. Let me quickly go over what all of these controls do so you get the general idea, and as we move through the series, you'll get a chance to see almost every one of them in action. The first one on this list, the data list, is designed to display data in any repeating structure, such as an HTML table. This is great for displaying rows in different layouts. It gives you more design flexibility than an option like the data grid we'll see in a moment. The details view is designed to display one row at a time. So you might use data list for all of your agents and details view when you only want one agent. Like other controls, you can use this to display, edit, insert, or delete any single row, but it will automatically be inserted into a tabular layout. And that's what makes it different from the form view control. Form view is ideal, again, when you're working with a single record, except this time it won't automatically be formatted in a table, which means you can display it however you want it on the page. Your fourth option is grid view. This will automatically display all of your content in a table, and it works really well when you have a lot of content that you want displayed automatically. So when we insert our real estate listings and we have all those columns of information to display across and down the page, grid view will be a very handy option. Finally, you see the repeater control. This also produces a list of options, and it's ideal when you want to repeat the same layout for each item in a data source over and over. For this page, where we want to list all of the agents, I'm going to choose the data list option, and to use it, just click to select it in the toolbox and drag it anywhere into your content area, and it will automatically appear there. Now you want to choose the data source, SQL Data Source 1. You have a second chance here to configure that data source. We already did that in the earlier step, but you could use this to get back to the same configure data source dialog and change what you specified here. If you do that, however, you'll recast the data here and it will affect the display. Notice that when I chose data list, all of the names of my columns were automatically entered exactly as they appear in the database, which isn't how I would want them to display on the page. And notice too that the actual content is represented by this ABC. Now, when we preview this in a browser, you'll see the actual information is there. But before we do, let's edit this template so that we can change the way it appears. You'll do that by clicking on the Edit Templates link. And now you see I have a pull down and I have a number of template options. For example, I have header and footer templates that I can use to add content at the very top or the very bottom, kind of like you might add header and footer information in a Microsoft Word document. What I want to work on is the item template. That's the main template in this display option. And when I select it, I can now move over here and do things like delete the ID tag by selecting and deleting it. Now, if you notice, I'm having to click around here a little bit. I have to attribute the challenge of this to the fact that this is still a 1.0 version program. But I will warn you, if you're not very careful, you can get somewhat unpredictable results in this area. We deleted the ID from the top because we don't need the ID to be visible in our pages. That's a database field we use for keeping track of our agents, but our viewers don't need to see it. I'll also delete all of this text because we don't need to display this on the page. But be very careful not to delete anything that falls between these brackets. Don't worry about editing it by accident. Expression Web won't let you, but you can delete it by accident if you're not careful. If you prefer to keep this text, you can edit it. So for example, I could delete the E and make it a capital E. And I'm going to leave the rest of this so that you can see what it looks like when we display it in a browser if I don't remove all of that. When you're done editing a template, you have to click on this little arrow and choose End Template Editing, and then close that window by clicking on this little arrow. Then you can save the page and preview it in a browser. And now you see I've got the full name,